Morning, guys. I'm going to give you some definitions that you're going to be hearing in the news a lot. One of these things is called fascism. Fascism is what the Nazis were in World War II. They were fascists. Okay. So, I'm going to try and explain this the best I can in simple form. It's a little more complex than what I'm saying, but it's easy enough to follow. Fascism is when a far-right group, and a right group means somebody like the Conservatives or the Republican Party in the United States. They're on the far right. They don't like change. They like money. They like control. So they're far, far right. And fascism is when a small group of men, generally men, control everything. Okay? This group of men make all the decisions without question. Nobody can question them. You can't vote them out of power. They just control everything. So with Hitler, it was him and his Nazis controlled everything. And you couldn't do anything about it. When we say fascism referring to the United States in the past couple of days, that is the idea that Donald Trump has tried to become and create a fascist party. He has tried to control everything and take the power away from the people. He's found a select group that wants to help him do this. And he has supporters in the lower classes that want to help him do this. Things like taking away people's ability to vote, taking away people's education, taking away people's ability to speak out. And he's done this all 4 years of his presidency. And people have been calling him a dictator or a fascist, because you can be a dictator in fascism as well. With the takeover of the Capitol building, that was a very, very fascist movement, which is when the liberals came out with something called Antifa, which is anti-fascist, against fascism. So when you hear Antifa, it means the liberals or the Democrats in the United States are against fascism. So that's an important part to know. On the far left, there's another group, it's called communism. And we've talked about communism in regards to Russia and China before. Communism is very similar to fascism. The only difference is how the economies work within those countries. On the basic principles is the economy. In one economy, you have a very few businessmen who run everything. Think Apple, the Walmart guys, the few car companies. They all run the same things, and they have a monopoly. Meaning something like Apple, you can never have another phone company. All you would have is Apple. In communism, it's kind of the same thing, except everybody economically is supposed to be equal. But then there's always that elite group that get away with it. So there's two very dangerous mind frames on both ends of the spectrum. And you'll often hear fascists saying how bad it is to be communist. And they'll mix up what communism actually is, and they'll call it socialism. And socialism is what we have here in Canada. So I'm going to go over the differences between socialism and communism, because for some reason people in the States are not taught these differences. Communism, you are given very few options of what to buy, and you're all given the same amount of money. For instance, I would be selected to be a teacher, let's say. I would make the same amount of money as almost every other teacher, the cleaning staff, the principals, we'd all make the same amount of money. We'd have the same options for what clothing and food we can buy. We'd have the same options on where we could live. So whereas right now we have some teachers who can live on acreages, beautiful properties of land, and we have some teachers like myself who love to live in condos. We wouldn't have that option in a communist society. We'd all have to be equal. We'd have to wear the same types of shirts, the same types of pants. You might get a little bit of variety, obviously in size, maybe a little bit of variety in style, a little bit of variety in color, but they'd all generally be the same. That sameness becomes a problem. It means people can't feel their own identity. So they bootleg, which means they bring in stuff from other countries and then they sell it to be different, to look different. Socialism is not like that, right? Think of socialism as what we have. We have free healthcare. We have free education. We have a military that supports us. We put a little bit of money into infrastructure to help build bigger projects. We have places people can go to if they're homeless to find a place to sleep. Communism wouldn't have homelessness. They would all have the same access to healthcare. They all have the same access to education, equal across the board. And sometimes that's good, and sometimes it's really bad, because if you're paying a doctor generally a lower wage, and you're paying them the same as a teacher, they might not have the motivation to go to school for 9 years and become a doctor to make the same amount of money as a teacher or a garbage disposal person. So the doctors you do get might not be the greatest. That's not to say they're not great. That's not to say they're all bad, but there's some huge flaws with communism and motivation. The United States has always disliked communism, but in recent years, due to poor education all across the United States, they've started to mix up what communism and socialism is. With a socialist economy, we're still capitalist. We just believe that a little bit of our paycheck goes to helping our fellow humans. We want to make sure that everybody has access to healthcare, can go to school. The United States has free education, but it's not the greatest anymore because they don't fund it very much. I can tell you as a teacher, I would go to almost any other country to get paid than the United States because I would not be paid enough to live. That's a problem. Okay? They don't have free healthcare. We do. You can walk into any place here in Canada and get healthcare. You do have to pay for some things, and that's a problem, but you can get free healthcare. And actually our taxes are very similar. So we've been showing people all over TikTok, you guys can find videos of people comparing Canadian taxes to American taxes. We're all taxed about 18 to 20%, but most of their tax money goes to their military, which is huge and spends trillions of dollars a year. Okay, so those are some of the definitions that are coming out. There was a coup, and everybody should be calling it a coup. If you're reading or watching a media source that is refusing to call it either a coup or a domestic terrorist attack, then they are not presenting you with facts. The reason these are facts is because of the definition. Okay? I can't point at pasta and tell you that it's pizza. Even though the ingredients are similar, I'm still going to call pizza pizza and pasta's pasta. That's the same with a coup. Okay? We know the definition of coup. We know what happened on January 6th was a coup. So we have to call it that. And if you're not going to call it that, you have to call it what else it was, which was an attempted domestic terrorist attack. Domestic terrorist attack means terrorists, a group of extremists from their home country attacking the government or the people. So those are some of the definitions you guys need to know.